oil pan because there's going to be oil that's going to be messy and get everywhere. Oop, I already spilled oil. Oiling the wood. Gives a new life to this plywood here. Not make a mess to make a bigger mess. Okay, you can see there's oil all the way up to the funnel here on the top, so how much you're supposed to do this, but just make sure you want to avoid any dry starts with the actual oil pump. Oh yeah, there you go, look at that. This is what comes through. Pretty much sucked it in there. Okay, it should be primed good, but I just want to next avoid making a bigger mess or attracting dust into my oil pan, so I'm going to get some more. Okay, here we are under here. Now it's time to mount both the oil pump. I got a gasket here. If I'm going to apply any silicone or anything there, I just got to line it up properly. Hopefully, I don't need, you know what, it probably won't hurt to put a little bit of silicone in there. So let me do that real quick. Let me just put that on the side real quick. Just to get it to stick there. I don't know if I need to though. It's a paper gasket. I need a yeah, so got my anaerobic former gasket sealant here, non-hardening, just to tack on that little paper gasket in place before I mount the oil pump. So that should be more than enough there. tight, but.
And it's here not so long after, which I realized that I wasn't going to be able to get the pickup tube attached to the oil pump with the oil pump on the block. So that's something you should do beforehand. You need to screw on the pickup tube and make it at the right angle, that it's facing down, that it's going to be picking up oil from the bottom of the oil pan. But you need to do that before you install the pump. So I didn't record it, but I did end up having to take the oil pump off and then reattach the pickup tube so it's facing down, and then retorque the oil pan. Luckily it wasn't too long after, so the paper gasket was still reusable. But you do torque those two bolts on the oil pump to the block at about 30 foot-pounds, and then make sure that the pickup tube is nice and tight in there and it's facing down so you can fit on the pump, which I'll show you next.
Ready to go. We've zip tied the gasket onto the pan there on the four corners. We will be adding RTV non-hardening type here on the block. Hopefully it should work out from there. Sorry. Yeah, it's in the brand new Pro gasket, rubber. It's very similar to the same type of material used on the valve cover gasket. So we've got our 1/2-inch drives, torque wrenches ready, and so it should hopefully go smooth.
So I guess I wasn't recording, or I couldn't find the clip from me putting the pan on, but yeah, it was pretty straightforward. Just fit it up in place, got a few starting bolts in, and cut off the zip ties, and then everything else was just getting it torqued. I did struggle a little bit getting this inspection plate back on. It was just fidgeting it around with it and trying to line it up to go over that stud where the starter will hook up to, but once it was on, it was straightforward.
Good. I mean, it'll fit. If it's engaged or not. And is the starter engaged with the fucking. Alright, then we got the 50 foot-pounds on that one. Come on. Just need to hold it with one side. I just want to hold that in place so I can somehow get my finger in. It's a little easier. "19 foot-pounds of torque that the spec calls for, so I think we're gonna start it up and see if we can detect, smell, or hear any leaks that would dictate whether we need to do more. But this is the only sign of leakage I got here on this oil filter, but that could have just been residual. Not seeing any from the rear main seal anymore, so that's good news. I maybe have to tighten that a little bit more. I don't know if it's really leaking or if that was just residual oil. But yeah, let me kind of move out here. I don't detect any leaks. All that shiny stuff's from the old sealant that we had done a long time ago. But it's not fresh oil. and there's nothing coming back to our bell housing. Doesn't sound like we got any exhaust issues. So final thoughts here on this repair. After driving several miles test drives, I have no leaks on the rear main seal of the bell housing anymore, and that is a relief that that job is done. I guess the hardest part for me here was diddling with the exhaust pipe to get that out of the way. And then, you know, it's always hard to kind of crawl under any of these vehicles, especially when you don't have flat surface to jack it up safely. You have back alley conditions like I had. But yeah, I mean, initially with this oil leak, as you can see some of the evidence there, there was several leaks on this vehicle that I've addressed all of them so far, starting with the valve cover gaskets. I got a videos of that. Also the timing cover, I went in there and I did the intake manifold while I was at it. So all the gaskets there, renewed everything, and that rear main seal / oil pan gasket, it could have been either of them or both of them from the backside, you know, that was leaking onto the bell housing, into the bell housing, and then leaving spots in the driveway. So between all those fixes, there are no more oil leaks, and it's got a fresh thing of oil. And the one thing I didn't mention in the video there, I missed it. I don't know what was going on. There was a lot of filming, a lot of work, and I was eager to get the job done. But obviously, when everything was torqued back up, the starter back in place, you got to connect the battery. Obviously, you want to disconnect the battery. I'm not sure if I mentioned that in any of the videos before starting on any of this, because you don't want to short any grounds out, especially if you're touching the starter and etc. Hook the battery back up, fill oil. I think I filled up about 4 quarts, about a gallon, but you have to keep checking it. And you obviously want to check your oil when it's cold on a flat surface. And so make sure you're at level, and then over the next several hundred miles of test driving, or tens of miles, you want to keep checking it. But yeah, that's a wrap. I'm happy that this is done with. I had done a stopgap and just sprayed some Permatex sealant around the oil pan initially, and even used this product called Stop Rear Main Seal Stop Leak. All those products, you know, those might help some people in certain situations, but it's not recommended. I think the only really way to address oil leaks properly is to address the source, and it's probably a gasket or a bolt that's not torqued properly or needs to be changed or something else. But using all these like stop leaks from the inside, these magic fixes are not recommended, even as stop gaps. I ended up having to, even to get the bolts out of the oil pan, because of all that gunky residue was a pain in the behind. So I'm definitely never going to use any of that stopgap solution, stop seal. It causes much more problems than it's worth. And just address the source of your leaks, and then your car will be much happier. As a result, you'll be running at normal pressures, and everything will be the way it should be. So yeah, that's that, and I'm happy I could finally park it on the driveway, not worry about a big old oil spot that's left behind. But that's that. Thanks for tuning in.